All right, Islam, and welcome to MHHS, Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita Ill, along with my co-host, Ms. Raheem Alice Ill.
Peace, Anna E. Peace and love to everybody on Moors. All right. Thankful to be back, to be here right now, you know.
All right.
Islam.
Islam, and we have RVBey.
I thought you called me out because I had stepped away and had it on mute for a second. I apologize if you hadn't yet, but Islam to everyone.
That's all right. It worked. And, of course, we have Cujo Adwa L.
Islam, peace and love, Moors. Islam to the panel.
Islam. Before we get started, I just want to say we have a somewhat full week. Last week, our week was somewhat full because we had Sister Standing on Law on Sunday. And this week, it is somewhat full because today we have MHHS Eyes Wide Open. Tomorrow, we will be live in the flesh at the National Theater with Abdul Police Mosley Bay at the National Theater for Moorish Heritage and History School. And then this Thursday, drumroll please, we will have Sons of Allah at 9 p.m. Are you guys ready?
I was doing it right now, like, I'm ready.
Born ready.
I know they got a lot to say.
Pardon me, I'm going to be participating, but I'll refrain. Look, they're about to have a start going in already.
Hold on. Wait till Thursday.
Yeah, I'm chilling, man.
No sneak peek.
All right. So we got out of this 5-day work week, we have 3 power-packed days of information to knock your socks off. So make
in this
sure
electrifying age, wait, you said of information. We got to add to that. In this electrifying age of information.
Absolutely. I have not updated the Kidnap Moor list yet, which is why I haven't played it. So, you know, once I get around to that, that will be updated. But we have a lot to talk about today, as we do every day, because life is about reflection, but you can't have anything to reflect on if you don't open your eyes and ears. Shut your mouth, open your eyes, and open your ears, and pay attention, and then think. All right? Because there's so much misinformation just being thrown out there. There's so, and I can tell you, back in 2008 when I came into this information, there was not a lot of stuff on the internet. There certainly wasn't a lot of stuff on the YouTube. There was no Facebook. I think at the time MySpace was the thing, and I never went into that. But I can say that even though there wasn't a lot of information, the information that you did find, it was pretty accurate. It was pretty informative, and so today it's like, because a lot of people are waking up, they have thrown so much misinformation in with, relative good information. So you really, today, you better be studying. You better be looking words up in the dictionary. And all of this, I'm going to follow whomever the messenger might be because they look good, smell good, or you like them. You better forget about that. This is not that time. You better learn how to take information, analyze it, discern it, take what you can use as it relates to your nationality and put the rest aside. Because if you don't, you're going to fall for anything. So I'm going to pick
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask because, my mind thinks about all the messages that have already been here for hundreds of years or what have you. And when you said, now at this time, there's a lot of information and a lot of misinformation, et cetera, like that, it reminds me of how the truth and falsehood is strangely mixed. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're actually experiencing right now.
You're absolutely correct. And a lot of times people will just say these quotes from the prophet, just like, they just say it. They don't really take it in because, the prophet, he was an amazing son, absolutely amazing son. He said so much with so little words that you need to take some of these one-word sentences that he gave us, that he left here for us, and you need to take it and just ponder on it for like a month or two. Just that. Because what he said has a whole bunch of information contained within it. So you're not even going to, unless you ponder on it, turn it over in your brain and just let, the information that's already in your DNA surface. That's what you have to do. Because his words went very, very deep, but only for those people who are studying, because that's where you'll find the words. When you study, you're going to go deep. You're going to go deep. You're going to lose sleep. People are going to be able to look at you and know, oh, you're studying. I can see it in the look, in your face. I can see. You don't have to say nothing. So, a lot of people you got a lot of people that are running around. They're always chattering. They're not. Chances are they're not studying. Because when you're studying, your brain gets so packed full of information. You got to be quiet so you can absorb it, and that's going to take time. Studying is not quick.
If I can add, again, let me just add, and it would be my experience, therefore, what I can share, and also my thought about this. Again, when you mentioned that some of the things that was left by Prophet Muhammad Ali, some of those phrases, those one-liners and things like that, you will not really get what they are unless, as you said, you are really studying down this road. And then what happens, and what I found, is that all of those things are revelations that happen to you at only your appointed time. That's what I found, and that's when you're, wow. You know how we were saying, another prophecy fulfilled? Well, yeah, we can say that because we see and know or whatever and have studied and know that. But even with that aside, just those phrases that are said, they are personal revelations to you, and you will not find the truth in them or find what they really mean unless and until they become a revelation to you at a certain time in your course of study. And I have to say, that's how it happened to me. I remember, and if there's anyone out there that remembers also, I used to run around and I would hear people saying these things that were quoted by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I would say, where are you guys getting that from? Where is it? Where is it? And I may have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because this is what I mean by revelation. And I would say, where are you getting it? And I'm sure that they were looking at me like, what's wrong with her? Why? Because all of those things were in the common literature that you had, the 101s, the Message to America, the Divine Warning to America, the Message to America, and the Divine Warning to the Nation. Yes, let me get that right. It was in there. It was in the Moorish literature. It was already in the things that I had already, disposed. You already have that. But upon going down the road and upon studying and upon living, like you said, living the life accordingly, then one day all of it is a revelation to you, and that's how it happened to me. And it was really interesting because it was like one time I was doing a presentation somewhere, and it was a question and answer type thing. Matter of fact, it was up in Connecticut around the time when I met you in 2008 maybe, and the questions that were coming from the audience or from the people, all of a sudden, the answers that I was giving were quotes from Prophet Noble Ali's work, where I brought that understanding, and I was amazed at myself. I'm telling you. I was like, where did I get that from? Where did I get that from? But that's how it happens along the road and along your course. Will they avail themselves as revelations to you personally? But you, not me, not Annie E, not Cujo, not Ms. Rainey, not anyone else, can go down that road for you to receive those revelations on your own appointed time. Islam.
And with that, we're going to go right into the topic of today's discussion. And it is a one-liner. And you know what? It's so crazy because I want to preface it with this. It is a statement from Prophet Noble Ali. I'm going to preface it with another statement. This is from the Prophecies and the Statements, number 67. Easier to find out what I brought you. And if you are not careful, 50 years after I am gone, you won't know that I have been here. Now, all right, now I preface it with that because everybody is running around talking about stuff and like hamsters running on the wheel. Everybody, running after whoever is saying whatever stuff today. Somebody else comes along tomorrow and says some stuff, and you're running with them. And so, they had these commercials where you had like hundreds of people. They would run here after this person as one mass group, and then they would run over here to this other person as one mass group, and then they would run over here to another person as one mass group, never ever taking the time to really look at what it is that was put in front of you that you're getting ready to run to. So I want to preface it with that because we were talking about this, and I had such an epiphany of the craziness that people are, participating in today, that I just had to put this down as today's topic. And it reads, the 14th and the 15th Amendment is not necessary for your salvation. I'm going to say it again because I'm going to get ready to get into what these 14th Amendment things that everybody is chasing down today. Y'all didn't read these prophecies and statements? Many of you say, oh, I'm out there doing the prophet's work. Oh, I'm all for the prophet. Oh, I'm all for the nation. He said the 14th and the 15th Amendment is not necessary for your salvation. Many say they are doing the prophet's work. If that is the case, why do many seem to always attack all their presumptions of salvation to 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures, like the birth certificate, issues of conveyance, trust, securitization? All these are based on the 14th Amendment. Don't you realize that the person referenced in all of these policies and procedures applies only to corporations? When did you become a fiction? The whole purpose of declaring yourself to be a Moor, Moorish American national, is to correct this presumption that you are a fiction. Yet, even as you make the correction, you're chasing down, because this birth certificate is worth X amount of Federal Reserve notes and credit in United States of America policy. Isn't that a 14th Amendment issue? Oh, so you're going to go after the Social Security number because it converted you, flesh and blood being, into a solidified, inanimate object referred to as a corporation. Would you turn to a pillar of stone? Because that's the only way you could become a corporation is if you miraculously was turned to a pillar of stone and became an inanimate object with no blood flowing in your veins. Or maybe you're talking about the trust issue. The trust issue. You know what? People are so gullible, so very gullible. Because a trust cannot touch your bloodline because your bloodline is ancient. Your bloodline predates by eons of time a policy that establishes a trust document. And it is a 14th and 15th Amendment policy and procedure. So either you get what the prophet wants you or you don't. But either way, it shows that you have not studied, because these are 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures. Now, I don't give a crap which messenger is bringing you this misinformation. You are obligated to investigate this stuff. But you're not investigating it. I know why you're chasing after the 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures, talking about, hey, we got the answer now. Because you're scared to stand on your bloodline. Maybe you ain't clear, which means you ain't got no business talking about I done declared my nationality if you're not clear about it. Because you're clear about it, you ain't running after 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures that don't apply to you and damn sure enough can never be your salvation. So maybe you're not clear. And because you're not clear, you're running around with a lot of fear. And that's why these modern Europeans see you coming a mile away. That's why any Tom, Dick, and Harry, Sally, Jane, and Sue can get you running here and there and everywhere behind all kind of 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures. I don't give a crap who the messenger is. Check the message. Forget about the messenger. Check the message. Okay, because if that message ain't based in bloodline, if it ain't talking about lineal descent bloodline, if it ain't talking about inheritance, it's 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures. Everybody running around here talking about, I got a trust. Really? I can take whatever. What you got in that trust? What you have in the trust? Do you have a name in the trust? Because, see, a name really is not what the inheritance is based on. That's the patriarchal mindset. The inheritance is based on bloodline. Bloodline can't be put in a trust because a trust is based on 14th and 15th Amendment policies and procedures. And bloodline is blood. Is blood. If you cut me, I'm going to bleed blood. Okay, because that's not gonna go into a trust. So where do you put it in there? Are you putting in the land? If you put in a land in a trust, two don't even go together. Because by definition, trust means some sort of commercial activity. Commercial activity. We ain't talking about commercial activity when you're talking about inheritance. Why? Because inheritance is unalienable and inalienable. Check your Black's Law Dictionary. Inheritance, unalienable and inalienable means that which cannot be bought, sold, or transferred. So what are you talking about? That's the protection. The bloodline is the protection. And that's why the prophet said, y'all can go on with your bad stuff, because I brought you something you can't tear up.
Sister Anita, I was going to say to you that I think it's looking for that protection, but the protection is already there. It's already there, And if we were to get this collectively, which we know there's not, many that may not this time around, but at any rate, if it's about bloodline and inheritance, and look, let me just say, people said, well, it's about a protection, but we're already protected because even with the Constitution, as we got clear, is that the articles of the Constitution are for those other citizens and corporations and their guidelines, and then the Bill of Rights, of which they call amendments, the Bill of Rights is for you, the natural people. So your property, if you think that's what you're protecting, is already protected. And if you don't believe that, then you're not enforcing the Constitution as the prophet said. You're not doing that. You're going outside of that. And as you said, 14th and 15th Amendment artifices and statutes and things like that to create something else or to chase after something else. But I think that's kind of what they're thinking is, oh, well, that's going to protect my stuff. But everything is an inheritance. And if I could just take this second to say that when you're dealing with ancestral estate or anything ancestral, it's relating to ancestors or what has been done by them, right? And then an ancestral estate or such as transmitted by descent and not by purchase. And then when you're dealing with the fact that I think, like people are thinking, well, I'm going to write this up in the trust. Well, what is the process for that? Because we are already walking, living, breathing trustees of our own estate. So you're saying that the process for all that is under 14th and 15th Amendment, unless you're saying, oh, I'm going to just write something down. Well, if you did write something down, that's extremely private. What's that? You know what I'm saying? That would be private.
But the birthright has nothing to do with anything on a piece of paper. See, that's what they came in and started as a way to give the appearance. It's just, to be clear, it's just an appearance. It has not really happened. Because last I checked, when I go outside my front or back door, the land is still here. So it gets stolen. It's still here. So it's just an appearance that the land was stolen from you. The only thing that was stolen is your logical thinking. And that's not stolen either. That's still there too. You just need to exercise it. But you cannot exercise it with a concept that modern Europeans gave you and continue to perpetuate, because all their concepts is based on theft and trickery. Just it. So when I say that people are afraid, I understand that people are afraid because they don't want to step up to the plate. They want to hide behind something, and in this case, it seems to always be some 14th or 15th Amendment policy or procedure, always associated with, you got people chasing after the popes of Rome. Well, who the hell are they? Because last I checked, a pope is a title. It's not even something that exists. Really, when you think about it, it is a title of a job. That it's not a flesh and blood person. What's the Vatican? That's also a fiction. What's the Christian church? That's a fiction. United States of America. That's a fiction. United States. That's a fiction. U.S. citizen. That's a fiction. All of these things are fiction. They do not really exist. when you go back and you look at how the misinformation has been implanted into people's cranium, all right, then you see how it is that today people believe a union corporation is government, but doesn't duly teach etymology. And as Moor, don't we say, hey, get yourself an unabridged prior to 1965 dictionary? Did you look up the word government? Did you go and break it down etymologically? Did you look up the preface or the base of the word government? Because govern is the word, meant is something else. So what does the word govern mean, and who does it apply to? A governor. It was like a big revelation for me to look up the etymology of the word governor and see right underneath it, government. And I was blown away. And I know I was being guided, because then I started watching this series called Outlander, and it's telling you about the history of Scotland. And, you know, one of these people gets captured in the battle, one of the battles, and held in prison for 3 years, and then prison. He's being held in a prison, okay? And the other prisoner asked, did you meet the new governor of the prison? And I realized, oh, wow, governor equivalent to the word warden, prison warden. So then I go look it up, and I find this little piece of information, and this is out of the British Journal of Criminology. And it says prison wardens, or governors, as we shall call them over here in both the U.S.A. and Canada. So everybody is looking at the governor as somebody who's in charge. You know, where's our government? You mean where's our warden? Where's our prison warden? I mean, our ancestors must be rolling in their graves. Oh, my God. Where's our government? You mean our prison warden? Really? You know, I feel like this. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but there's so much information out there, so that anybody who truly wants to correct their concepts, and anybody who's falling for these charlatans with all of this information out there, y'all need to just go on down in flames. There's just, because there's no excuse. There really isn't. In this electrifying age of information, there's no excuse. None. We really, if anybody is falling for that, as a people, you should feel very, I'm not saying beat yourself up, but I'm saying you should feel really ashamed that don't feel ashamed to the point where you don't do anything to correct it, but just recognize, okay, I've been played. I can tell you, I have been played. Since 2008, and coming into this information, I have been played by some Moors. But guess what? Before I came into this information, I have been played. So it's all right. All right. I recognize this is a play. I've been played, and it's all good. I'm going to learn from this. And I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. But that's the key. Make sure it don't happen again. Just don't say, I was listening to MHHS, and they broke it down, and now I got it. But tomorrow, somebody's going to come with some new 14th, 15th Amendment policies and procedures, and you're going to fall for that. Or should we do another broad class and break it down? No. You can't do that. You gotta get in yourself the ability to analyze and discern based on the principles that Prophet Noble Jew Ali brought back to us, because he didn't bring us nothing new. He brought it back to us. So what are the principles? He said, if I can just get you to thinking, you would free yourself. He brought us the principles to learn how to, all right? So it's not complicated. It really isn't. That's all you got to do is think. Let me tell you what you measure this up against. How about you measure whatever comes across your path against the supreme law of the land? The supreme law of the land. I don't know nothing else on planet Earth that says the supreme law of the Uniform Commercial Code, or the supreme law of trust, or the supreme law of merchandise, or the supreme law of commerce. Only thing I know that is the supreme law of the land is the Moroccan Constitution. Why am I calling it the Moroccan Constitution? Because if you were thinking and did the etymology of America or American, you would realize that it is a derivative of Morocco. Abdullah has broken that down on several occasions. So for all you Moors out there talking about where's our government, we ain't got one. We ain't got no prison warden. So we do have a supreme law of the land. It's called the Moroccan Constitution. Islam, I yield the floor.
Oh, my God. You know, I that is good, because where do you start and all that? You're right. Why not measure it up against the supreme law of the land, which was established for all who were on the land? The thing you have to know is where you are in it, and then do that, exercise that, be that, and understand that, you know, what's for you and what's not for you. We've been mentioning all week about Article 1. Bill of Rights 1, I believe it is, right. It's, you know, when you have the right to associate, you don't have to. First, you have to identify who you're dealing with. Now, if you think you're dealing with government, then you know, that might be your thinking as to why you think you have to associate with corporations. But if you've done the work to find out that they're corporations and that everyone here is under the supreme law of the land. Now, you may be thinking, well, why the supreme law of the land? Because of what we have done, and we have man, we have mankind, we have uncivilized activity, we have lower self and higher self, and lower self is identified by lower self activity, of which, you know, we've all experiencing against us, or you know, be it close or not close, sometimes in your family, wherever, all over. And it's gone unchecked because it's uncivilized activity at this point. Why is it important to get this straight right now? Because the true future, and that's immediate future, what you do in the present determines the future, all right, is that institutions of learning must be erected, or must be established, or must be, period, whether they're virtual, whether they're stone, brick, and mortar, it doesn't matter. That's what's going to bring back civilization principles, because we are direct descendants of those who are the mothers and fathers of civilization and civilization principles. That's who we are, period. And there has to be the answer for the children and for the generation and for the nation. It is the answer, and I know that that's why the prophet said, this is for the young and yet unborn. And you wonder, well, young and yet unborn. Oh, yes, because the nation is in the womb, and it's going to keep happening, keep coming. So we have to reteach. We have to be, what should I say, reteach, because that means that someone was here and they're being retaught. And some people are standing here right now relearning what they thought, or learning what they thought they knew. That's a good way of putting it, because they may have gone to schools, and they may be totally educated. In fact, I find that it's that group of people, say about the past 2 or 3 years, those who were truly considered themselves as being educated, they went to college, they got degrees, all that, those are the ones who've been checking themselves lately in the past few years, going back in, some of them, and then others of them still in their ignorance. Because remember, it's in religious controversy, although that's the title of it. It says that those who have been educated are full right on. It's not offensive. It's just, if you check it out, you'll see why. Are full right on, and the longer they stay in those institutions, the higher they will jump to defend it. So in the past few years, I would say, I've seen those of we Moors who have been, quote-unquote, educated in the colleges and universities and things of such, coming out, because they're coming out with what they think that they're intelligent, and, hey, I've got a college degree, and I've got a graduate degree and a master's degree and all of this, and they got to go back in and check themselves, right? And then the others of them are going forth on what they know, which isn't much, which isn't enough, to be honest with you, and establishing new processes that, as you said, M.E., are still steeped in corporate, commercial, 14th and 15th. This is why the prophet said there's no need for the 14th and 15th Amendment, and I'm glad that this is the topic, because all of those things that you're running and dealing with and trying to make processes for to make void are 14th and 15th Amendment established things. So there's no need for that. So therefore, anything that comes out of it, there's no need to address it. We need to stop addressing those things. So they're coming in, these college educated, and I'm the one I know, and they are either going back to check themselves and get retaught, or they're coming out with processes they think are correct, and that's where all these birth certificate processes and commercial processes, all for the purposes, supposedly, of avoiding the 14th Amendment birth certificate document that made you, as you said earlier, a fixture or a inanimate object, which it never did. Back to saying why the prophet left this revelation for you to get, and that is that no one can change your descent nature. So the birth certificate, none of that is going to change who you are, but for you not being clear about who you are. And that's why in the last of it all, this is how I see it. In the last of it all, he was like, look, I tell you what, if you don't do nothing else, just declare your nationality, meaning be clear. It all makes a whole lot of sense, all of it. So I yield the floor. Islam.
Islam.
Just to go back to what you were saying earlier when we started about the information that's out there.
Yeah.
A lot of what we're addressing, is not new stuff. You know what I mean? Like Drawley's telling you 14th Amendment has nothing to do with you since the 1920s. How are they still talking about that today? I mean, Drawley said nationality is all right there in the 20s. How today people are questioning whether nationality is real or should they do it or, whatever. So we also have to acknowledge that not only that, there's just this influx of information out there now, but the individuals putting out the information are also incompetent. Like when we go back to 2008, right, and we did this in class the other day when we were talking about, who were the people that we came under as far as, when we came in, Moors told us, study from here, 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 here. And there were specific individuals that, was the prerequisite for us to be able to get our mind right as Moors. People don't have that today. You know what I mean? They don't have people that are that sincere to tell them where to go to get the information. that they need for their salvation. It's more than likely going to be some unknown, unseen, unauthorized individual or page or something that, clearly based on what it is that they're presenting, they don't know what they're talking about. Which again goes back to the thing Drew Ali said, study, 1900s. You still not studying today? You still have this idea of, Matrix movie laid out in the thing and somebody stick the thing in the back of your head, that's how you get info? You get uploaded info to you? That's not a reality. You know what I mean? That's the Matrix. But then again, if people are in a box mentality, only what they say matters and nothing else means anything outside of what, they found out or they read or they taught or whatever, then no wonder, shit is so messed up. It's not messed up because of something external. You know what I mean? Chicago's not going nuts because of something external. It's going nuts because Drawley told them that they're doomed for messing with him. Detroit's not going through madness that they're going through because of some, Europeans did something. No, they didn't listen to the prophet. And that's just two so-called cities. How much other people did, how much, cities were actually in the prophecies that people probably took out? Because, I'm sure everybody has slipped drastically because they didn't take heed to what Noble Drew Ali said 100 years ago. And now that these things are resurfacing, it's like when you have those situations where something happened to somebody by somebody, and then, instead of deal with it, they pretend like, oh, this didn't happen or whatever like that. Then 10 years later, the individual resurfaces, and now they have to deal with all this BS again that they thought they let go. It was the same thing with Noble Drew Ali. Brought everything that it takes to save a nation. You didn't take it, but now you're suffering. And then you're looking at all these other things as why you're suffering, when all you got to do is just go back to what Noble Drew Ali laid down, read his stuff again, and get yourself squared up. Starting with that Quran, because you're not going to be doing anything out here, your mind in the lower self. Nothing is going to work.
That's right.
Like zero is going to work. It might work for a little bit, make you feel good, but trust me, that wasn't no win.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't for you to use as, hey, look what happened. I was a Moor, and then that's not what it's about. If your ducks aren't in a row, which again goes back to what we were saying, that you better know without a shadow of a doubt that 14th Amendment has nothing to do with you. 15th Amendment has nothing to do with you. And again, because Noble Drew Ali told you that 100 years ago, he told you that. So if these things are still around today, clearly somebody knows about your prophet and what he said if they still have that stuff around today.
Right.
When that's a fiction. Right? No different than Negro, black, colored. Man told you 100 years ago you're not that. You still calling yourself that today? And that's a fiction?
I think they're feeling the force to make changes right now, is what you just said.
Well, they're way past that, because change is slapping these people whether they want it or not.
That's the force.
Big time force.
Yeah.
Right? Big time force.
Real.
And even on that level, like, being forced to make changes, like you're not supposed to be forced to change. Like, if you're forced to change, that is not good. That's a very bad thing if you're forced to change. You know what I mean? Like, if
because
the only way,
resolution is the word.
Yeah.
They failed to do the resolution, as you brought up earlier. Now it's a force. Yeah, it's wrong. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So to take the perspective of, you know, well, the force made us do it, then you're not really going to benefit from it, really, because you were forced to.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the natural progression, doing some studying or whatever, realizing, goddamn, like, you know, they really harm the animals. I think I'm going to go vegan, opposed to you have a tapeworm is why you're going to go vegan. You know, because of the time that we're living in, the idea of being forced or pressured doesn't have the same effect like back in the day. Like, if you were pressured to do something back in the day, bet you never do it again. How much people in this day and age are forced to do stuff and then they still go back to the stuff that they were forced out of doing? Like, how are you going back to the stuff that you were supposed to change? How is it that, you know, highwaymen have to literally kill Negroes black colors or whatever like that for them to not be Negro black colored, but then they're still Negro black colored? Highwayman's going to come out and say, we only kill black people. Don't worry, European lady. we don't kill anybody else. Only black people. And they're still staying black. They don't realize that highwayman was trying to tell them something or forcing them to think. You know, FBI came out. Black identity extremists forced them to change. Now they don't want to. They're gonna talk shit about the FBI or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do that, and they can't. No, they're forcing you to change. They're telling you, you better change. If you don't want to change, all right, cool, don't worry. You know, we got something coming for you. Because everybody knows about noble equality. Everybody knows that nationality is the order of the day. Everybody knows that the nigger problem is the only problem in the world that seems to go unsolved. While everybody else's problem is getting solved. The nigger problem, that's a problem.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
And the nigger problem was solved 100 years ago. And you still got a nigger problem today? Somebody's effed in their head out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And again, when we use the Japanese as an example, these guys got freaking nuke dropped on them and they're good right now. They just got a nuke dropped on them. These people have been free from slavery for 100 years or whatever. People celebrating that they're free. Slavery's been abolished 200 years ago and all that, running up and down the place, getting museums in their name and all that stuff, and your conditions still suck. And some people who got a nuke dropped on them, they're good right now. They're some of the number one, whatever you want to call it, they're the number one right now. But they had a nuke dropped on them. But I also know that they never called themselves adjectives and continents and all that either.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably why they were able to get out of their stuff so fast. Just like everybody else who had whatever happened to them and they got out of their stuff real fast. The only people is our people playing around.
Mm-hmm. You brought up something interesting, and I know that you guys are going to really talk about that on Thursday, but I just want to mention, you just brought up something that hits me, that we have been told for a long time, 100 years, as you said, just from the prophet work alone, that we're not Negro, colored, or black. So now there's this consciousness raising where people are, coming into some degree of consciousness that they're Moors. So now, to me, it's like this compass is turning and pointing towards those who are black and call them black, BIE, black identity extremists. Now, this is the new thing, but in a way, that's not right. But at the same time, it is, because it's very serious. Because if you're not honoring your mothers and fathers, right, then and you don't know who you are, you're dangerous. You know, and have been stakes on the table for a long time, and this stuff has to end. So the fact that they're going after those who are still with the black power and the black this and the black that, you know, it's like now what would be their defense in terms of natural people or a nation of people? They can't say the black nation because that's false. It's a fiction. It's false. And so you're right. You just brought to my attention. They're forcing them to cease and desist from that and bring resolution to these things. And if not, then, you know, they are definitely fodder. I get it now. I was told that a long time ago. Well, some people are going to be fodder. And that's where it is. There will remain stakes on the table, but there ain't a lot for people for them to eat from, so you'll be gone real quick. That's what this is all about. Islam.
Islam. Indeed. Well, I'll keep it brief, but I just wanted to add on the fact that I noticed that, as you all mentioned, you know, certain people who try to downplay nationality and still cling on to the names and the principles that allude to slavery. Like, for me, I know for all of us on the line, and mainly most of the listeners, you know that we're not Negro, black, and colored. Like, a Negro, black, and colored, or somebody who thought they were Negro, black, and colored, right here in America can go to certain places that are allegedly dedicated to them, and they'll tell them that they're not Negro, black, and colored. Case in point, and I can't stress it enough, when we went to the museum on the National Mall, the so-called African American Museum on the National Mall that had just been open for over a year now, you know, it's in the soundtrack. They was telling them that, quote-unquote, came black in colonial North America under the colonist rule, under the, 13 colonies. This is where the slave range was coming in at. Going back to what Noble Drew Ali was saying about how the appellation of Moors was stripped away in 1774. Because, like you said, Noble Drew Ali was saying this back in the early 1900s, warning us of the political ramifications of that, because they are, in fact, in history and in law, as it said that the slave code was cemented into the colonial law, right, through race-based systems. And the word black classified a denationalized nation of Moors. But even if you go beyond that, it originally meant pale. And big acknowledgement again to the common sense quickies that you put up today. Cool, Joe, I saw that, you know what I mean, or yesterday or something like that, the definition of black in there, you know, referring it to pale. So it's like, when you really look at it, just like slave meant Slavics, these identity swaps that's going on relative to Moors, whether they're aware of who they are or not, because a lot of the natural premises, like foundational principles, have been ignored, including know thyself, you know what I mean? And there's so many levels to that, you know, that's an infinite subject almost. But when we bring it down to earth, like on the political level, that, as you were mentioning, you know, certain places have been hit with nukes and they're doing well. And that's because that, you know, they have nationality aligned up with their existence, or their existence is aligned with their nationality. Therefore, they can do international things. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you're not, because remember, like you said, the policy enforcer said straight up, they only kill black people. You know what I mean? Telling the modern European, whoever was behind the wheel, you know, that she had nothing to worry about. And I thought about it. I'm like, yo, the vibration that they're on when it comes to their property is crazy. Like, you ever seen like a rock band, how they treat their property? Like, they be having guitars and they just smash them all around the stage and throwing microphones and speakers and all of that. And it's like they don't really care about their property when they express. And that's how they've been moving for generations. You know, now I don't know if I should make the distinction because from my understanding, Moor's created that electric guitar and all of that. But the heavy metal or whatever they call it, where they shake their brain out of place and be on stage doozy doing all types of crazy stuff, right? Like they nod their head so hard they catch concussions and things like that. Like there's a lack of care that be going on. So imagine with property, the same people who are on that frequency, you know what I mean, of distorted vibrations and all of that. They have shown through over many, many decades, centuries even, that they could care less. And all you got to do is do the timeline. Because like we said, the quote-unquote brand name changes every 20 years, just like, different corporation owners have different brand names. So like the same people that own Sam's Club owns Walmart. It's just different brand names, like how they do business, how they get down. And, as far as people being in stock or whatnot, like it's the same thing. So, Smith, Jackson, Black, Negro, Color, all of that are just different brand names for the same, quote-unquote, shareholders, stockholders, and 14th Amendment artificial constructs. Because it's no mystery. If you look up the definition of person in the Fourth Amendment, the fourth edition, Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, it tells you that word person means corporation as used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. You know what I mean? And right there it lets you know that it's corporate business, which is why there's no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment, going back to the whole situation at Fort Monroe. They was never free during the civil, quote-unquote, Civil War. They were transmitted like contrabands of war. So that's all it is, was a clause, because if that was the case, right, why would they have the same clause in the Constitution twice? Because the Fifth Amendment definitely secures the right to due process of law. So why would the 14th Amendment, in its very nature of the language, the explicit context of the 14th Amendment, in the context behind what you're reading of the 14th Amendment, why would it set up a jurisdiction like that, say somebody's subject to it, and then guarantee them the right to due process of law? When it's talking about all those born in the United States, born or naturalized, and then hit them with the dual citizenship of being a United States citizen and a citizen of the state wherein they reside. But none of that is dealing with natural law. It's not natural law. And the natural law is superior in obligation to any other, as it states in the Institutes of American Law, talking about persons and things like that. So, again, like I was talking to my mother the other day, I'm like, the law of nature is really where it's at. You know what I mean? When you're talking, the Constitution is based in the law of nature. It's the same thing, because land is natural. So when you're talking law of the land, of course, is going to secure natural rights. And, of course, the Ninth Amendment basically caps that off, dealing with the divine science of the number 9 being the completion. But nonetheless, you see that reflected in the law of the land. So there's rights that are not even enumerated, you know what I mean, which includes your right to travel, all of these things, by any mode of conveyance. Go back and look at personal liberty. Go back and look at the energy that ancestors was trying to shake off of them as far as their freedom of movement. You know what I mean? If they wanted to even hop on a horse. That's why the case law and those 13 bullet points, you've been giving away for years. it mentions that, you have the right to travel by any mode of conveyance, and it even included the horses or the carriage, but not that everybody's going to go that route, but I'm just saying that's another ancient mode of conveyance before they even had, the technology, the printer, quote unquote, license. So, custom doesn't alter the nature of truth, but you see those rights of ancient modes of traveling passed down. Because damn, you know what I mean? That the animal, that even goes to show in its own merit. Excuse me if I'm going too far off, but the contrast between natural law and artificial law, or the natural person and the artificial person, is the natural person was connected with nature, meaning that the horse, they have relationships with the animals, and they didn't necessarily have to keep them in cages to have dominion over them. So, as you see the Europeans nowadays trying to enslave everything, you know what I mean? Birds, every cows and all of that, like everything. But I don't know. I just found that a correlative aspect to what you were saying. The fact that the 14th Amendment is unnatural, and the fact that, the artificial person is a fundamental lesson when you come into knowing thyself. Like, because law, like we hear in the Libra season, so even the aspect of law is a natural aspect, but not color of law, though. Color of law is lower frequency, democracy, demon crafting, and all of that. So natural law, natural justice, like nobody's above that. Because they say nobody's above or below the law. People get forced to make changes when karma hits them. That's natural law. You know what I mean? Speaking about, forced to make changes. Like nobody's above that natural law. No matter how much they legislate, whatever, it comes back on them. So one way or another, you know what I mean? Everybody's going to have to respect the natural order. It's just that simple. And, so that being the case, natural people.
I was going to just add something to you, what you just said. You reminded me when it just came to me when you said that if I think you said the Fifth Amendment, due process of law, and then you're saying, why bother with the 14th? I mean, why not see clearly, which is what the prophet was telling you, that the 14th Amendment dealing with that is definitely not for natural persons because it's already been taken care of. And it reminded me, and so then when you said, okay, let's look up person, they're telling you that the first clause of the 14th Amendment is corporation. So it reminds me of, in getting to the divine of it, because remember the Constitution is written in the principles of divine and divine law principles. Excuse me. It reminded me of Genesis 1 and 2. Like if you are manifested from the spirit into the flesh in Genesis 1, why did you need another manifestation in Genesis 2? You know what I'm saying? So it's the same. Right. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then another conversation that's commonly avoided is Genesis 25.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we talk about diversity, nationality, and birthrights. It's all in there. It's all in there. Yaqub, Esau, it's right in there. You know what I mean? So, look, it's a difference. It's diversity. It's diversity in life. But something that's overlooked. So, I mean, when they are talking about, you subject to these artificial laws, because the 14th Amendment, I'm on to it. I'm telling you. I think that was the low-key peace treaty between the Union and Confederates, because the whole thing with the Confederates is they wanted to keep slavery, and the Union never actually freed them. You know what I mean? But yet the war was fought on the military prowess of Moor's mentality. Like Moors was frontlining on both sides of the Union and Confederates. Not that, Europeans weren't, but even then, even when the quote unquote Union, quote unquote runaways of the Confederates or whatnot, like, they still never recognized them as free, just contraband. That's really it, And then the whole, after that quote unquote Civil War, and the Union took over. This is where the 14th Amendment arose at. So it's like when you do the timeline.
Now you're bringing a revelation. What the prophet said. When you read that, he says what did he say? The north fought the south to bring that. Wow.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah. There it is. You're telling me exactly what you're saying now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who was without constitutional? Who was without power at that time? Mm-hmm. He said he also went to say who was without. I think he was saying the South was without power at that time.
And they were brought into union.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So, you know what I mean? When you look at that timeline, it's all there. And we was talking about that the other day. You think, okay, like, all right, so Noble Drew Ali, he established the old Canaanite temple in 1913, right? But that's really not that far off from 1865. The Civil War period in the 14th Amendment. It's really, we know right now, we know people who are was born in the 60s that are alive today, 2017. So again, like I said, when you put it in that time frame, like, he wasn't too far off the mark with what he was talking about in its relevancy, because he was also taking it back to a timeline before that when he was talking about the Constitution has never changed. That's why there's no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment, because all of those rights that they was looking for, quote unquote, was already guaranteed by the Constitution in the 1700s.
That's right.
So, you feel me? So his whole thing was like, look, this was something else, the Union and Confederate, basically. You know what I mean? At that particular time. So it's like right now you got Europeans who are, quote unquote, against each other. They got the European who alleges to be a white supremacist. That's what he calls himself, the dude Richard Spencer. Right now we know they're not white. But that's them still in, status again. But nonetheless, Florida just declared a state of emergency because he's going to do a speech at a college in Florida. Like, you know what I mean? Because he's talking that Confederate talk, like, and they declared a state of emergency, plus some other stuff, whatever they concocted to, you know what I mean, mingle amongst the pale-skinned nations of Europe, to stay in power. Like, that's where they at with it. But again, it's just a sign of the times, like the whole reset, restart. It's like, it is what it is. It is what it is. And the identity issue has been an issue from the 1700s. Like, it really has. It's because the Sundry Free Moors was what? 1791, right? 1789, 90 or 91?
Yeah, no, I think it's 90, right? Yeah.
What was it? 1790 or was
90.
It? Right. Yeah. So they was arguing status back then. Like, no disrespect, you know what I mean? But they was arguing their status in the 1700s. You know what I mean? And late 1800s, early 1900s, Noble Drew Ali brought the same argument in certain aspects right back up. Like, it's all interrelated to the conversation of being Moors. So, or not being Negroes, blacks, and coloreds. And any group, any organization, quote unquote, nationalized or denationalized will tell you that. Like, you know what I mean? Farrakhan told you Negro means dead. You know what I mean? That's all civil lit to mortus. and Noble Drew Ali brought all of that information back then to everybody who's saying Islam anything today. Like, you know what I mean? So with that, I'm going to yield the floor for now. We got Sons of Allah, MHHS Sons of Allah this Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Definitely going to go back in on some things then. But I don't know if y'all want to add on and hear from the people.
All right. Thank you.
Indeed.
All right. So at this point, what we'll do is if there is anyone who would like to make a comment, have a question or concern, press 1 on your telephone dial, and we will begin to take our callers. So our first caller 773-785. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maximum. Islam. Caller 773-785. All right. Caller 3, you're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maximum.
Noble Mullah Hill. Can you hear me?
Please, yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Islam. Oh, okay.
Islam.
All right, I heard Islam. I heard what you said about the trust issues. So I'll give that a lot of thought. I was looking at, I was talking to Roz a little bit earlier, Roz Mariah, and getting into some other things that I had saw, because I'm, catching up with where y'all are at this point. So, I don't have anything to be ashamed of. So I'm not going to be ashamed. You learn as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to her in regards to the correspondence from the Emperor of Morocco dealing with having appointed a consul for all of the nations that were within our dominion. That dated itself at 1780. So, that was an excellent revelation and piece of evidence in terms of the expanse, or some of the expanse and influence of our estate. And, as he began to count off or name the different nations that he had appointed the consul for, the first one that he named was the Empire of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Then he named Russia. Then he named Prussia. Then he named, what else is it? Danzig. He named Naples. He named the States of America. He named Rome, which would have meant that at that time, since we know that Rome and Italy are not the same thing, but that Rome is its own authority in terms of the Vatican, that would have put the Vatican under us. So like I said, I'm seeing a lot of stuff, and as you look at the and this dated itself at 1780. So this is approximately 6 years before the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was signed, and 7 years before it actually went into effect. I also just recently learned that the state of Hawaii and the state of Alaska had left the so-called union, that, or whatever it is at this point, but they had to wait until the renewal, the last 50-year renewal of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship before they could leave. So that indicates just how powerful and that is the supreme law of the land, because they didn't wait for any type of constitutional convention to take place to leave. They waited for the treaty to be renewed, and at the point of needing to be renewed or in the process, that gave them the opening or window to leave. And so they left. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff that people are learning. I also heard, so there's no need right now to badmouth anyone. No need to badmouth those people, because the people are under a tremendous war. It's called a Psi war. Okay, Psi war, you know, Psi deals with the mind. And, you know, we are just now getting an opportunity to influence the airwaves. But they've had TV, radio, hundreds of magazines, programming all the time, as well as there are times, and I don't know if y'all have noticed different frequencies in the air, but there's times when I may be sitting around the house and just meditating, and you can hear a frequency in the ear. Have y'all ever heard that? You can hear those tones? Yeah. But if you are not strong in your conviction, if you don't already have these things, if you haven't developed certain aspects of your mind already in terms of foundation of truth as to the fact that you're not what it is that they say you are, you're going to have a hard time. And so those people that are in that are deep into it. I mean, deep into it. Because I've been kicking this science for almost 24 years at my job. And I've only really had one person to actually realize it. And he got nationality. He came to the classes, at the National Black Theater, got nationality. But before he did that, this is somebody that went through a lot of traumatic things, was in placement for a period of time. When he finally got out of placement with his siblings, when they were old enough to take him, he ended up going with them down south. And they had, some of his cousins had him be a lookout for a bank robbery, and he ended up doing 5 years. He just got out of a placement because that was the only thing that the magistrate could do for him at the time, because he had seen his parents decapitated in the car accident with him. So he had no one to take him, and they just placed him there. But during that period of time, he heard me drop a lot of signs. And in that time, once he went down there and he was in jail, sometimes people got to be in places that stop their forward momentum. And especially brothers, understand how this thing male-female works in terms of the mindset. One is centrifugal, the other one is centripetal. Anything centripetal always pulls energy to the center. Sisters, y'all always pulling energy to the center. This is one of the reasons why y'all tend to be more perceptive and more receptive than most men are, with the exception of those men that have, whatever their background was and how they were brought up, allowed them to latch on to the yin aspect of the energy so that they could, turn around a lot more often and look back to the center and be able to see and balance self. But most of them are not. So the campaign has been to polarize people's thinking, especially with the men. Either you all the way masculine and you can't see anything, and you can't see any feminine aspect in terms of the way that the energy has to flow back to the source. And so therefore you always away from the source. And you're not receptive to a lot of things because you've been polarized, because that's how they understand that. We taught the science well, and they learned well, and they're using our science against us. Like I said, whereas with the women, like I said, y'all always there at the center. Y'all catch it. But even then, there's a psi war going on with y'all, because there's the campaign to masculinize the women, which takes them out of their center, which makes them less receptive. And so since the women are less receptive, and the men are polarized all the way into the masculine pole, then there's nobody to call them back home. So they stay out in the field.
Wow.
This is what's going on.
Wow.
So you got to analyze these things. You know, it's not as simple as it seems. People got to stop making it seem like it's so simple. You need to understand that if you were able to turn around, especially your brothers, you were able to turn around and see and come back, you know, you were blessed. And, you know, that was what was supposed to happen for you. But it wasn't supposed to happen for everybody at the same time. Some people need a heck of a lot more. Some people need guys to come out of the water and start tearing up buildings before they start to realize. Others don't.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to understand and be a little bit more sympathetic to what's happening. That don't mean we're accepting that it's that way, because you got to still keep on teaching. But the other thing too, that, you know, people have been enamored with things. One of the things that the Bible has said is that love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. But if any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in them. In other words, people have been taught to love things. They can't stand people. This is the reason why you know, some years back, we had a multiplex theater out in Nassau County at Green Acres Moor. And the last straw that took place that made it necessary for them to put magnetometers and start checking for metal and so forth was an incident where people were online. They were online for, you know, whatever confections and popcorn and stuff while they were waiting for the movie to get their little snack. And two brothers online, and one brother stepped back, you know, and ended up stepping on this brother's sneakers. But the brother loved his sneakers, but he didn't love people. And so, but, you know, the brother that did it, he made his apology and he was sincere. The other brother wanted to fight him, but at one point or another, that brother that made the apology and stepped on his foot, you know, also made it clear that you can't beat this except the apology. So the brother didn't think no more about it, got his snacks or whatever, and was waiting on the line to go on the movie. That brother came back and shot him dead.
Yeah.
It was after that incident that they started to put the magnetometers. You know, we talked about the Negro problem, but like I said, if it was that simple, why is it taking so long? It's been 100 years. They've done their job well. What did Noble Drew Ali say about, you know, us getting our state back? It's something that won't take place in words.
There's a conflict that cannot be solved in
words. Right. Correct.
You're right.
It's not going to take place that way. It's going to be rough. We're not going to just, you know, we ain't just going to be skipping down the street like Rockette, you know, to freedom. That's not how it's going to happen. It's going to be rough. And if you know anything about how things work, you know people always are their worst enemy. Nobody's a worse enemy than you can be to yourself. Mm-hmm. And so this is what we're facing. So we need to, but the other thing is too that people are attracted by what they consider to be accomplishments. So when they see very little happening, they're not going to be easy to come this way because there's so much other things that are happening that to them, when they see massive changes going on, that indicates power that is being exercised. And so that's what's going to make it harder. People they're not able to see. We don't have control of the airways. We're not in that. So it's just now getting to that degree. And many of us that have this, we've been blessed, but we blessed ourselves. But I also, realize that there are things in our past that we don't even realize that sowed seeds within our mind, and that later on, the experiences that we went through allowed for the rain to hit the seeds, and those seeds were able to blossom. Mm-hmm. But there's other people who are shielded from the seeds and from that rain, and the rain's not hitting whatever seeds may be available, so they're not getting it.
Well, let me ask
you. We need to know.
Let me ask you
we need
something.
to know.
Your analogy or fact, really a fact, of the difference with the mothers, the sons, the male center, the women being the center, and the fact that it is admittedly true that the women, the polarizing that has been a skillful plan over generations has occurred and is here. And so with us having some of the, realizing what the problem is, then, because we've got to bring resolution to it. And then, like you said, some don't know because of this. So where do we start? Where would it start? Like, it has to start with institutions of learning. Like, in other words, if we know that we've been mistaught, then those who have the ability to need to think about institutions, classes, or whatever, of learning to correct it. Now, again, there's some that you said, like the rain won't hit them, it's like throwing a mustard seed. Some will get it, some won't. So on one hand, it's like, all right, well, we got to get it started. We know the first schoolroom is the womb, but if she's off balance, then that kind of messes up the kindergarten, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, it definitely does.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
So we got
right.
Yeah.
I'm in a place where I see, and we were talking about this earlier. I'm in a place where we see a lot of the sons and daughters. Just recently, the sister that I know, I was, talking back and forth, and I went to help her out. She called me, and, a lot of them experimenting with drugs and so forth and so on. These are the things that's out there, especially with their friends. So even though their parents may be kind of righteous or whatever, but, they got their own minds. So, young folks coming and having their eyes wide open. Some of them are getting their eyes wide open the hard way. And, young brother smoked something, or whatever it had in it, messed him up, had him out away from his house in front of the Stop and Shop. Inside the Stop and Shop, just standing there. He wasn't bothering anybody, but he was just standing. A lot of people, people believed the hype, so people were scared, and the store owner called the police. And she was able to find him, at that point. But he ended up having to go to the hospital. They end up putting him on drugs, and this, that, and the other, So I work in a facility where a lot of them are taking what literally could be called skittles, because they're taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different drugs. 3 or 4 of them may be for what they claim to be the symptoms are, which in most cases, the symptoms are definitely poor diet.
Mm-hmm.
Poor diet. They're not eating the right food. So they become more susceptible to things around them because they're not eating the right foods and they're not developing properly. And so you got 4 or 5 drugs that they may be taking, but then those 4 or 5 drugs have side effects. So now there's another 4 or 5 or 6 drugs they taking with side effects.
Yeah.
So now you go there with them when they're taking that, and you're talking about somebody that's taking maybe 11, 12 pills. This is what's going on. Families are destroyed. And even though I've been given carte blanche, I got pictures of the prophet. I got stuff up in the hallway showing that it's Moor. I'm constantly, that's what's when you come in my part of the hallway, these are the things that you're going to see. You come in my room, there's a collage up there, Noble Dry Lee, CM Bay, you name it, I got them on the wall. And I've been given carte blanche to teach. And they told me at first I used to ask for the supervisor, a letter from the supervisor, a letter from the mom, a letter from the social worker, and after a while the director said, look, if they want to learn what it is that you're dealing with, just teach them. The problem has been that these children's minds are so messed up that they can't pay attention for more than 10 minutes. If I speak and exercise more than 2 sentences in a row, I'm preaching. Nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to hear anything. I did have a few that were hopeful, and one of them was a blood. I saw him coming down the hallway, and looking at his demeanor, I was like, oh, this guy looks like trouble. I don't always engage them right away. I want to see what's going on, see how they act, because there's always that honeymoon period before they cut loose. And he ended up being one of my hopefuls, pants down under his behind. But when he got in my manhood development class, we take him out in the community. We go to different communities. We look at it. We ask questions in terms of, what do you see the difference between this community and that community? What kind of man maintains this community? What kind of man maintains that community? What kind of man you think you have to be in order to do that? Why is it that they can do this and we don't do that? What would make us equal to any other people on the planet? It's one thing to say we are. It's one thing to look at the history. It's a whole other thing to actually live it in this day and time.
Live the life accordingly. But right. So yeah. Well.
So we got tough job ahead of us, and like I say, I never stop. So about mindset, we have a lot of Moors that know and can go back and forth in terms of nationality and national principles. But very few deal with divine principles. I hardly ever hear that.
But national principles are divine.
Y'all deal with it. Mm-hmm. Well, it all depends on how they operate, because a lot of them dealing with national principles that are divine, but they are strictly stuck in that which is mundane.
Mhm.
Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily take my gold doubloons and go down and buy a loaf of bread. We got to start with the mind. We got to start with the children, and like you said, the other thing is our own institutions. Those institutions have to deal with. They got to deal with understanding how the mind works, what the sciences of the mind is. Because it's referred to as spirit. Breath. Okay, there's different aspects to it. There's a constitution to it. But I don't hear often the Constitution being spoken about. And it goes back to our ancient brothers, you don't hear that. There's a divine Constitution, and then there's that which takes care of the mundane aspect. But once you have the divine, it's the divine that informs the operation of that which is mundane. And good government sits on the shoulders of divine character. So this is some of the things that we have to teach, and we have to make changes in the way that we're dealing with things little by little, in order for people to see that we're consistent with what it is that we say. And then the other part is them seeing the true effects of the consistency. The other part of that is the changes that we can make in the environment. So, people are constantly, people are always dealing with talking concerning concern. Most of us are talking heads.
Yes, and you did say that, talking heads. Well, listen, we're going to talk tomorrow. We're going to get with you tomorrow. So, I'm looking forward to that.
All right. And and Sister Anna Eve, all of y'all that have been doing this, like I said, I'm catching up. I had to catch up with y'all. I spent quite a few years away, and while I was dealing with that, so now I'm catching up. Y'all are doing a tremendous job. I don't know how many I've sent. Plenty of y'all videos and send them by 10, 15 of them, because what I do is once I watch them and I pull down my all those the list of bookmark videos, I take a picture of them, and then I send them to people. So I send whole lists and let them know, look, you need to watch this, check these out, take your time, one at a time. If you got questions, come back. You know, if we go beyond that, then, you know, you can go here and you can actually meet them, see them, you can hear them, talk with them for yourself, and you get the book. For my sons, I digitized just about all your books, and I have more flash drives. So all of my sons have the flash drives, and they got all the books. So now we have a meeting.
We have some other callers. We have some other callers that's been patiently waiting, but so we, you know, we can talk further.
I understand.
Thanks for calling. I'm glad to hear from you. We'll be talking to you tomorrow for certain. Peace and love.
All right.
It's loud.
All right. Peace and love.
It's loud.
All right, caller 719-232. You're live on the air.
Greetings.
Hey.
This is brother Bukhari.
Wow.
Brother Misraim, greetings. Shucks, I forgot my question. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I forgot my question.
All right.
It was. No. I was just listening to the previous caller, and so many wonderful comments. All right, 14th, 15th Amendment. Roger that. Okay. So yeah, so easy. So many subjects to talk on, right? Okay, so one of the I was just taking a look at the Constitution, and I didn't have a question right. I did have a question, but I can't remember the specific. I didn't write it down because I was listening to the show. But in terms of the 14th Amendment and its veracity, it seems that there already exists a couple of amendments which covers due process. So I think it's the 5th and the 6th.
Well, before you get into that, let me just make it clear for everyone, because I think this is very important for everybody to comprehend, because I think that we go off on, we go off topic kind of sort of when it comes to the 14th Amendment, because we've been so mentally indoctrinated. I just want to make it clear, because in the Black's-Law 4th edition dictionary on page 1299, it says corporations are persons. Corporations are persons, as that word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment is only talking about corporations. It's not talking about people. It's not talking about any flesh and blood beings. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the human population. That's like a key that we gotta get, because I hear people, they say, well, I'm not a 14th Amendment citizen, but if we look at the definition, it says, well, yeah, because you're not a corporation. So what are you talking about?
And would you say the importance of that is recognizing any documents or instruments that come from the 14th Amendment also has nothing to do with it?
Absolutely. And I have said numerous times, Papa Noah Drew at least said there's work enough for all of us. So if there was just one industrious Moor that would take the 14th Amendment and prove that it is evidence of treason, we would no longer, that would be, and look, it doesn't take much to do, because when you read the 14th Amendment, it is attempting to raise a corporation to equal or greater status than a human being. That's why it's absolutely void. You could never ratify that and talk about it's now a part of the Moroccan Constitution, because it goes directly against the whole premise of the Constitution, which is at all costs protect the people. And the 14th Amendment not doing that. That's why it's void. I just wanted to interject that. I hope I didn't take you.
Well, you also want to add then, for those who might not really know, is that they now have to recognize any things that came out of it, such as the birth certificate, the SSN, and all of that. They have to know that that's what that comes out of. So if it's void, yes.
Anything that is written under statutes, ordinances, and codes is for the 14th Amendment corporate entity, not flesh and blood beings. Because no other human being has the power or authority to regulate another human being. The whole premise of the Constitution. I just wanted to interject that. Brother Bakai, I trust I didn't take your thoughts.
No. It just added. It added to what I was thinking, and in a profound way. And I don't want to. Well, I certainly agree, but I had a thought, and one of the things that I was thinking about, and I don't want to jump tracks because it is certainly related to the. I don't want to give the impression that I'm jumping tracks, but it is relative to the 14th Amendment. One of the things that really concerns me is the confusion, the massive amount of confusion that is not only exhibited by the knuckleheads and the virtual Moors, a wonderful term coined by Grand Sheikh Cujo Adwell, virtual Moors. These individuals who do so much talking, but they never really break down a subject in depth. They don't give references, and they shoot from the hip, so to speak. But let me just quickly identify the confusion. Much of the confusion that I had about this particular topic, I still have questions, but one of the things that seems to me that occurs is the Black's Law Dictionary. Okay, let's just briefly speak on the Black's Law Dictionary. And when you read a definition about a particular subject, and certainly in this case, the 14th Amendment, and I hope that I'm not confusing anyone, but if you go to page 785 of Black's Law's 4th edition, it on the bottom right-hand corner, it shows a definition, if you will, of the 14th Amendment. And it states that it became a part of the Organic Law, July 28, 1868, and its importance entitles it to special mention. It creates or at least recognizes for the first time a citizenship of the United States as distinct from that of the states. Now, I just want to stop there at that semicolon. Why I want to stop there is the term citizenship and states. And why am I doing that? It's because if you are just coming into this information and you don't even have a high school diploma, haven't even made it past the 9th grade, and when and in the 8th grade, you had a 6th grade reading level. I'm just throwing that out there, as a hypothetical. And now you start hearing stuff about Moors and, original people and sovereignty and, the importance of the Constitution, and you start reading this stuff. You need a foundation, so you need to go to school before you start listening to knuckleheads on YouTube or Facebook, because this is going to confuse the heck out of you. And you could literally be hearing some wonderful information from someone who is knowledgeable, but because you listen to some knucklehead on YouTube who don't have the ability to read and write, at a 12th grade level, much less, college, or has, put out any information, you are going to be in a world of hurt. And so I just wanted to, because that's something that just came into my mind here, like particularly the 14th Amendment clearly states the term citizenship, but how is that relative to you and this document known as the Constitution? So I just wanted to throw that out there. But the 14th and 15th Amendment, as well as the 13th Amendment, I don't want to get on that, but these are things that I would like to also just quickly state that Moors who say that they respect one another, or say that they that so and so is my master teacher and this one is my master teacher and yada yada yada, they really need to get we really need to get together and have a conversation, because I hear a lot of different things from people who say that this one is my master teacher and that one is my master teacher, and I've been studying under this guy for 20 years and whatnot. But when you hear them speak on these specific subjects, they clearly have a difference of opinion. And so I know that's a different subject altogether in terms of being consistent, but I just wanted to throw that out there as well, because had it not been, and before I yield the floor, give me just about 30 more seconds, had it not been for RVBey publications and some of the materials that have been distributed in reference to this a very serious subject, I would have been, I would just threw my hands up, because, like you go on YouTube and you go on Facebook and you just don't know who, when you're first getting this information, you really are really confused. And I think that the document in reference to the 14th and 15th Amendment, 14th Amendment, did a lot of, clarification for me. And then subsequent to that, the last thing that I would say in reference to the document is, when you are a new person coming into the movement who is studying, or just anyone studying any kind of information as it pertains to the amendments, then you want to look into, stop just listening to people. Look into congressional records. See what was written. See if you can, do some research on that, and then do some, historical reading. What was going on around, what actions were taking place when these amendments were, supposedly ratified and such. Were there any specific wars or any serious issues going on and so forth? I mean, these are things for, people to think of, before you start opening your pie hole and, calling yourself a scholar. You need to be able to answer these questions, without referring to your, books. And a lot of people who are listening to these knuckleheads on YouTube, with some of them have nice presentations and, bells and whistles and good music and all that kind of stuff, but they don't answer any questions, and they're not being asked any questions. And that is what is most frustrating. And but again, two women have started something that saves the day and has saved the day in many occasions, and honors to these two mothers, Anna Eid and Ras Ramaya, Islam.
Islam, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I just want to say that RVBey Publications really was just, it was really started really just so that we can put information in a public place in somewhat of an organized fashion, not just for other people, but for us as well. So, I just want to say that, but I certainly thank you. But I thank Roz Moore, because I'm telling you, she does amazing things with graphics and electronics that I could never even begin to do. Yes, but I'm so thankful that she has that, that gift, because, that's not my forte. I can review, but that's not my forte.
I'm getting ready to change the platform, though, because it's an older platform. It's going to really be nice, really be great and up to date with, easier to find stuff and all that. But that's going to be almost like redoing the whole, doing it all over again. It's coming.
Yeah.
I said this.
And I want to, go
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to say something, because it's just so funny, or not really funny, but it's just, this whole thing about reflection. Reflection is absolutely what this whole incarnation of everybody is all about. It is all about reflection. Things come to you, you hear things, there's a saying in the Bible, he who has ears to hear will hear, and he who has eyes to see will see. It doesn't say anything about talking of the one mouth. If you really think about it, you need two eyes to try and see as much as you can, because you're not seeing everything. And you need two ears to hear as much as you can, because once again, you're not going to hear everything. And the reason for that is because we, as being human beings, we funnel things out. We funnel things out. We funnel things out based on what we already have within us, good, bad. So because of that, you need to reflect. You need to reflect on self, because it is in that reflection that you're going to become aware of things that was captured by your mind that you heard subconsciously but not consciously, as well as things on your eyes that you saw subconsciously but not consciously. So for those things that was received subconsciously, you must reflect in order to be able to see and hear them. Reflection, people have this grave, and this is another mental conditioning that we have, and it is very easy to slip into it. That's why you have to constantly be vigilant. We have this mental conditioning that says, I'm here to help other people find themselves. No, you're not. And I said this last Wednesday. You're not here for other people. You're here for you. Your reflection is going to help you. You're not here for other people because you can't manifest what somebody else's mind has created. And I remember I remember years ago, I was told by this very wise son, because we have this tendency to whine, complain, and I was told a story by this son, and the way he said it was, picture yourself, you're on the second floor of a building. This is the way a lot of people's lives, this is where the way a lot of people's lives are right now. You're on the second floor of a building, and the first floor is totally engulfed in flames. This is the lives of people right now. And you don't know how you're going to get out of that situation. But you better make a decision. You better figure it out real quick, or you're going to be real crispy. This is the way it was presented to me. And you know what? I had to think about that. I had to try and figure out, what was he trying to say to me? Because we get into this whiny place. We're always whining. Meanwhile, we're on the second floor of a building, likewise, and the first floor is totally engulfed in flames. We don't have time to whine. We don't have time to have a pity party. Because at any minute, we will be crispy. So you better figure it out. All right. So, here I am, reading through even the statements. I don't know. Let me see. I think I got that lesson in 95. Here I am, X amount of years later, well after 2008, reading the prophecies and the statements, right? What did Prophet Noble Dryly say? Prophecy number 127. I'm going to let the fire scorch some of my good Moors. I'm going, prophecy number 126. I'm going to let the fire touch some of you old Moor shirt tails. Okay, so what is he telling you? What is he telling you? Look, your behind is on the second floor, first floor, totally engulfed in flames. You better figure it out real quick, or you're going to be crispy. But look, I got that lesson about the second floor in 95. Couple years later, 2008, I'm reading the prophecies and the statements, and I see the same lesson. Tell me, if life is not about reflection, and who is this lesson for? It's for me. Because even as I'm telling y'all, I have to reflect on myself. I'm sharing my reflection. You know what? You can take it. You can leave it. I don't care because I got it. Look, I ain't going to be crispy. I'm not going out that way. I'm going to figure it out for me. And that's what it's all about. He said, look, I gave you enough to save a nation. Now save yourself. I'm taking all that Prophet Noble Dryly brought, and I'm going to save myself. Because guess what? That's all I can say. That's it. And it might be a lonely road, but that's all right. It's all right. I didn't come here to gather friends. I came here to learn my spiritual lessons. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm set to do. And you know what? That's all there is. So when I look at things like the 14th and the 15th Amendment, they don't even bother me. It's not relevant at all. And I'm so glad that when I first came into this information that my foundation was the supreme law of the land. Because once your foundation is the supreme law of the land, you won't get confused. You won't. You're going to have some tests all along the way, but you're not going to get confused because you got the right foundation. And so, you know, when you have the right foundation, you see other people tripping on trivialness, you realize they don't have a proper foundation. They need to reflect. But that's their lesson.
So then the answer to where do I start? That's a very good answer. It comes to us now because it's for everyone. And through that, then you would find the divine index. Yeah. It's great. It's great. And I guess that's why the prophet said it too, you know, because that's, yes.
That's right.
All right.
Look, his business is about reflection. You know what? I looked at a lot of things that the prophet says, and really, if we were to get the books written by Prophet Noble Drew and just read them every day, we would be so much better off. Because we read things like man's business is about reflection. Man's business is about reflection, but rarely do we reflect. Because you know what? If we was really reflecting, many of us wouldn't be in these supers because we'd be reflecting and correcting ourselves.
Resolution is what you
right,
see.
Exactly. Look, you can't get into anything, you know what, and be super sensitive because it ain't going to help you. That's a modern European mindset to always be in your feelings. No, your feelings will trap you. You better get a grip of that. The prophet said, draw a circle around your passions and square up your conduct. Throw your emotions in there somewhere too, because that'll trip you up every time. That's just, you're not here to wallow in your emotions. You're here to overcome the control of your emotions. Reading these prophecies and these statements, they will help you stay focused. Reading, because you know, the other writings of the prophet, they will help you stay focused. Reading the Quran, it will help you stay focused. This is for your focus, not mine, not Roz, not Ms., not nobody else. It's for you. That's why he says study, 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 because it's for you. The studying is for you. The studying is going to help you get yourself together so that you can learn those lessons that's going to help with your spiritual growth. And then you'll get, you know, because this whole thing, it's not about getting stuff. You know, the whole issue of nationality is just one step in another place. You can't get this step of nationality, which is all about disciplining yourself. It don't make sense to talk to you about that other place. I mean, it doesn't. See, all of these things are they're very elementary. That's why it is for the young and the yet unborn. Because we were supposed to get this already. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science. It's really about taking responsibility and control of yourself.
Self. That's right.
That's it. Everything that he brought, the issue of nationality, you know, the supreme law of the land, the divine and national movement of the world. Really should be the divine and national movement of, well, yeah, I guess it is the world, because the universe is straight. But all it is just to get you to learn one elementary thing. It's elementary, because you know what, we were supposed to, we already got this within us. We just need to bring it out. And in bringing it out, we're going to have to overcome a lot of stuff. And all of the stuff you're going to have to overcome is in you. It's not outside of you. Some of us think, oh, I got to overcome my mother, or I got to overcome my father, or I got to overcome my mate, or I got to overcome my children, or the friends and the family that I hang around. No, you got to overcome you.
You.
You are your worst enemy. And there's no other enemy that's worse than you. When you reflect, you see all of these things that has been heaped upon you, that have you so insecure within yourself, to the point where you try to give this exterior image of being in control. You're not. And this is what the prophet brought. He said, look, if you just study, if you draw a circle around your path, draw a circle around your path and square up your conduct, you're gonna be secure. You're not gonna be insecure, you're gonna be secure. All of these things outside of yourself is insignificant, but they will be absolutely relevant if your inner world is out of whack. Everybody's inner world is out of whack. That's why you're here.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Everything he brought is to get us in shape spiritually. And then once we get in shape spiritually, we can take the next step as one people.
Yeah, but you know, if I can add on, is what's crazy is even when we need to do that, but we also got to be careful of that too, because I was watching a documentary on the Panthers, and a lot of the quote-unquote people that might be close, sometimes you have to really watch them. Like when you look at what they did and how petty they were and impressionable they were, because like you were saying, people have to study themselves, know themselves, and take responsibility to save themselves. But there's some people who are looking for the shortcut, absolutely the shortcut, and they will throw you under the bus to get there. You know what I mean? And at my styling, you know it's real. So you know that even with that, you got to be extremely careful, specifically with the ops that's going on right now. It is definitely real. It's some of the things that are going on are the same things that you've seen. You know, when people were doing the right thing, they send people around you to either spy on you, and this is not to be fearful, don't get me wrong, but to be careful, to be cautious. Because when you are on the right path, you know what I mean, they'll send certain types of strangers at you who look just like you, you know, and put that out. Going back to what Bakari was saying about the those who haven't been studying, like really examining what's going on. Because, like, I don't know, it's just sad because and I'm only mentioning this because I watched the documentary, but I know they were in certain aspects property, but some of the Panthers were sincere people. And they sent their own amongst them to, top security guards was FBI agents, and they could never find nothing dirty on them. And they were so petty, the COINTELPRO operations that happened was so petty that the fact that they had a breakfast for children's program, they came in, and again, this is not to be fearful, I'm just stating the facts. They infiltrated from within because somebody caught a case and wanted to get off the case, and they flipped them, and sent them back and was spying on the Panthers type thing. And then they were so jealous, the agents were so jealous of what the Panthers was doing that they ran up in their spot in so-called Chicago and burnt cereal boxes that was food for the children, the breakfast program, and stuff like that, thanks to sellouts who were supposed to be security guards, like supposed to be security guards. So watch that. Be careful, because it's at its all-time high right now, like right now. Fact is, the CIA got started. The CIA got started because they said some files was missing from the quote-unquote FBI and whatnot. But they just said that the biggest CIA file leak happened this year with Vault 7 thing. You know what I mean? So it's like looking at this whole thing going over and over again. And like you said, the wisest thing to do is to make sure you save yourself, be cautious, be diligent, really watch who you watching, you know what I mean? Or watch who watching you, because it's no, real talk. It's in those times right now. It's real, like right now.
And would you say also that there's still some in their own desperation and blindness who will be bought out or sell out to actually try to bring movement down and people down? They're still the same contemptible spirits still around today.
Right now, even with the report that came out trying to tag quote unquote Moor sovereign citizens and all of that, discouraging people, it's the same shit that didn't happen. Look, we definitely gonna touch on this on Thursday for certain. But that video will be going up within like the next 48 hours for sure. But I just, you know what I mean? I had legit nightmares based off the shit that I just was revealed to me. And I know that it's real, you know what I'm saying? But I just was like, wow, you know what I mean? People selling people out. Those who come in amongst you, getting you murdered, working for them people, getting you murdered just for 300 notes, man, for 300 notes in the 60s, 70s. You know what I mean? And you're looking at the same repetitive cycle today. So you got people selling out, and you know what I'm saying? They're giving. It's the new. Media to confuse you. Yeah. It's the new op. It's definitely the new op. So you got to have that discernment. But you know what I'm saying? They were selling Moors out, and you know what I mean? Head of security of the Panthers, selling Moors out, got more Fred Hampton bodied and paid 300 notes for uniquely provided services. 300 notes. You know what I'm saying? And this man was shot in the head by these people who, look, man, you know what I'm saying, in front of his wife and all of that. So, again, I'm not saying this on no fearful thing, but it's the reality of the true history. This is real history, that they are known, FBI, CIA, are known for actually instigating false beefs, telling certain Moors like, yo, these Moors got a hit out on you, expecting Moors to retaliate in a violent way to get other Moors out the way. Like, this is the stuff that was really happening. You know what I mean? And it's still happening. So be careful. Like, it's sad to say that even with the legitimate aspiration to be unified with all your people, like, even with that, sometimes you gotta watch that. You know what I mean? And like I mean, he was saying, what Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, yeah, you got enough to save the nation, but now save yourself. You know what I mean? Protect yourself through wisdom, through intuition, through knowledge. You know what I mean? We've seen this happen before. Don't let it happen again. You saw what happened last time. We got to be able to discern the sincere from the insincere, you know? And that's a hard thing to do, but, you know. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, well, we got another caller here. Caller 843-473. You're live on the air. Islam, caller 843-473.
Yes. Hello, I'm new. And just coming into it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm new. I'm just coming into the information, the knowledge that I say. I'm enjoying it. This is my first time, of course. But I'm calling to see if you help with personal situations going on, so like in a local community.
Personal and local.
Yes, ma'am.
Personal and local. Now,
what was the question?
Do you help personal situations that are going on in a local community? Wow. Now, see, this is the thing. The information is abound as to helping people to figure out how, what's actually happening to them lawfully or legally or whatever like that. And then when we all get together in our local community, as you would say, we would be able to build with each other and know, what to do. So from that perspective, that should be happening if that's what you're talking about.
That, among other things. I really don't know where to begin. I'm living a nightmare, and
we all are.
Yeah, I don't know. I know,
right.
But it's just like I keep saying I'm new, and I really don't know how to express myself in this situation. And in talking to y'all, I appreciate what y'all are doing, and it's been very enlightening to me. I have quite a legal situation going on, spiritual situation going on, and a re-education going on. And I have to deal with all of them at one time. Sometimes I'm
sounds like it sounds like the first floor is burning.
The first one, what?
It sounds like the first floor was on fire, that type thing, right?
Yes, it is. I'm inside, and I'm in it. However, self-educated myself to Constitution. I'm very interested in Treaty of Peace and Friendship. I understand it was signed in South Carolina. I'm very much into the South Carolina history. I really love studying the Constitution, and I'm not clear in understanding a lot about the ratification. I'm well familiar with Black Law Dictionary, Bouvier also, and personally, I'm looking at launching a lawsuit within the Federal District Courts of South Carolina, and it's from just studying myself and putting it together. So doubt a lot of what I'm got going on, but spiritually, it's a force that just makes me do things that I start doing things I don't know why I do it, and then when I listen and read about the Prophet Drew Ali and get into that information, I said, oh my goodness, it's no coincidence, okay? Now it's just retaining the information and using it and applying it, I should say, when it comes to interpretation of statute of the law, I'm a little confused at times. I do like etymology, and as I said, I'm self-taught, okay? And it's in the last, I'll say, 8 years of my life self-taught because I'm living under a wrongful conviction that has been just a conspiracy. And at first I used to pout and cry a lot about it. Now I'm kind of enjoying it. I've gotten used to the position I'm in life right now. and it's been my entertainment. I love common law. I love learning about the different judicial situations going on. It's just that I feel like I got so much information going on in my head that when I speak to other people about it, it's like, okay, why did I tell them that when they're not ready? You know. But as for myself, I'm in a position that I know if I sit on it and go to my grave with it, I won't be satisfied with myself. I'm not satisfied now. However, I can't keep, so I just got to do something. I just cannot let this go on. I've been through every aspect of the judicial filing list and right up to the Supreme Court in South Carolina. And it's been quite a trip because I've gotten so upset in the past that I would not read the information thoroughly after I read the letter of denial and follow up, literally follow up on why I was denied because of the nasty disposition you run into with the clerk and the parties within the court, black or white. Yeah, again, let me talk a little more so maybe you can feel me out. I find that my own people, as the gentleman was saying, is the worst to deal with. Right now, I have been convicted of a crime that never took place. So I can't say really wrongfully convicted, but it never happened. In that conviction in the lower court, I trusted the attorney. I paid attorneys to the point that I'm out of money. I've been thrown under the bus. Attorneys that I had so much faith, and that hurt.
That's what.
That hurt. It hurt so bad.
Yes.
Now, penniless. And hindsight, I'm looking back at how could I have been so stupid? Let's say downright ignorant. Okay. However, I'm going to live with that and keep it moving. At the appellate court level, I was denied. The appellate court ruled with the law. I was advised by the attorney at the time that I had one last chance, and that was filing a PCR. And that is a post-conviction move. I couldn't find an attorney to file one. You couldn't pay. I had attorneys tell me, I'd rather give you some money than to file or even work in that county.
What county is that, may we ask?
Colleton County, South Carolina, and I'm in Beaufort County right now where I live.
So what they're saying is we know how corrupt they are. We don't want in politics and everything. That's what they're saying. We don't want to mess with that corporation.
Right. Well, it's a rough. Then at that point was when I took the initiative to start reading and writing, re-educating myself in that process also, and wrote my own post-conviction. And I filed it in the proper amount of time. When I filed it in the clerk of court's office, who happened to be black clerk of court. I knew her. We took classes together. Thought she was one of the best of friends I could have. And I don't hate her, but I'm just so disappointed in her and myself that I would believe that she would be other than what she is. What she has.
And what was she? Excuse me, I didn't hear you. Was she an attorney also?
No, she went straight from high school into the clerk of court office. That's a beautiful
into the what system?
Into the court system.
So what was her position?
Clerk of court. She was clerk of court. She was
working. Was she a so-called judge there?
No. Straight from high school, working under the clerk of court, who was clerk of court at the time.
She's a clerk.
Clerk. That's what I didn't hear him say. So tell Manny the fact that she was close, that she's working for them, why she would never be able to help it.
Right, and but You know what?
Politics. I mean, it's family. See, what we miss is family. Your political allegiance is to your family. And that's the reason why the law of the land exists, because of these diversities, that this is what political allegiance is allegiance to your own family. And so when you have a sister, like you said, well, we went to high school, she looked like me, I thought it was cool, but she has an allegiance to another family. All right? And so that's her choice. That's her choice, be it a sellout or be it whatever reason it is. And it doesn't mean that she can't necessarily work there and be who you are, but that's not government. So it's a corporation. So she has an allegiance to them, and they're going to run things for the benefit of their family. Again, back to what diversity is and why it exists and why we need to understand that you probably weren't even in a court. You were in a corporate meeting room called the court. These are the things that we really have to get clear. So if her allegiance is to that family, then that's why she's not going to help you, even though it's clearly apparent that she's your family, but she may not know that we're all family. And it doesn't mean that anybody does anyone wrong. It means that the reason the Constitution exists, okay, is so that no matter who's where, what family, whatever, you know, the law of the land keeps everything on a level plane. But our problem is not knowing that and not enforcing the Constitution and not knowing where we are in it.
Okay.
That's it.
Let me say this. I have been trying to enforce the Constitution as I know. And now at this point, as I'm able to properly understand it, my situation also is trickery within the court. When I started digging, and say like maybe 2 or 3 years later, when I'm able to say, go to the Supreme Court and get a copy of what our rebuttal to affidavit, I never got that letter. Yet, in their file, they have it. And then when you read what was submitted, it is so ludicrous. I'm like, how do judges allow it out of the
because they're corrupt.
How do they pass this kind of mess on right down to issues of conflict?
Well, first of all, you're not talking to a judge. You're talking to an employee of a corporation.
Okay.
Even this person that you're talking about is a clerk. She's a clerk working for a corporation. Your problem is you think that they're the law. And so you're going and you're asking these employees of a corporation to do something on your behalf.
Chief Justice, Supreme Court Chief Justice prior to the one we have here now, Moor or Rittman.
Sorry, what? I didn't hear what you said.
The Chief Justice in South Carolina Supreme Court, Moor.
Okay, there's only one Supreme Court, and it's the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court of South Carolina is just another. They're not constitutionally based. They're going to make their decision is going to be in the best interest of South Carolina Corporation, because South Carolina was established as a corporation. They still function as a corporation. Actually, they function as a penal colony, which is a prison.
In other words, that's not the Supreme Court. That's not a Supreme Court. It's only Supreme Court in name. So that's not the Supreme Court mentioned or meant in the Constitution.
Could you tell me about
not the state? See, let me ask you something. When you say Constitution, are you looking at the state's Constitution?
Both.
Okay. Well, Article 6 of the Organic Constitution, the American Constitution in 79, 91, which is the Supreme Law of the Land, Article 4 you that no other, if anything in their Constitution, the state's Constitution, there can't be anything in there that violates the Supreme Constitution. So that's why I asked you that to make sure. So, you know, it's okay to look at theirs, but you really want to stand on the Supreme Law.
Well, let me ask you this. You have an issue right now. Who exactly is your issue with?
My issue is with the clerk of court in the circuit court not properly processing.
No. You're going to this ministerial venue because something happened. What is the something that happened? I mean, you don't have to give me the whole history, just in a nutshell. What is the something that happened?
You mean who's the complainant against him? Who is his adversary?
Well, as far as my paperwork goes, my complaint is against, but what it is really, my paperwork never got out of the local clerk's office. And she's claiming...
Okay, you're saying local clerk. And I'm going to... So what is the name of the corporation that this clerk works for?
Colleton County Court.
All right, that's a municipal corporation. Municipal corporations don't have anything to do with the state.
Well, it's her job, I assume, to send my paperwork to the Attorney General's office.
Okay, but what is the paperwork? What is the paperwork regarding?
Post-conviction relief. PCR, they call it, short version. And you have a year and a date submitted to the court of your conviction.
Okay, so it sounds like you had an issue with the municipal corporation. They kidnapped you, held you in prison somewhere, and then you was released. Am I right so far?
You're right.
And now you're asking the employees of that same corporation to do something.
Yep.
Yep, I guess that's what I'm doing, but that's the process before me.
No, that's not the process. That's what you were told. Okay,
exactly.
Let me change the venue.
Mm-hmm.
Let me change the venue so that you can better comprehend. You had an issue with a Walmart employee. Walmart employee kidnapped you, held you in a storage room for X amount of time, and then released you, and now you're asking the employee of Walmart to do something.
There you go.
The reason I'm using Walmart is because the municipal corporation that you are talking about, they have about as much power over you as a Walmart employee. The only reason that they're doing what they do is because you think they can, because you think that they are government. You haven't done your homework because they are treating you like you are one of their penal colony prisoners, and you're not. So you needed to sue them for violating your constitutionally secured liberties instead of going to one of their employees, asking them to submit some paperwork, which you're saying they never did, and now you're either entering the time frame where it can't happen, or you passed the time frame where it can't happen. But at the beginning of the day, your issue was with an employee of that corporation violating your constitutionally secured rights, kidnapping you, holding you hostage, extorting income out of you for X amount of time and then releasing you back onto the street, the landmass.
The only problem.
All right, so you can't go to the people who are violating you to get some sort of a remedy. You have to go. Okay, you were never in a court. You have to go into a court to bring charges against these employees. You've never been in a court.
I was convicted in the circuit court.
No, you were not.
Okay.
Because that's not a court.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Court. South Carolina.
Just because they say they are a district court doesn't mean they are a district court. You could just been in a district court building.
Well, I haven't been there yet, but I'm looking at that as my next alternative in order to file a federal lawsuit.
So what it sounds like he's saying is the lower municipal court is the ones who did alleged charges on him, arrested him or whatever like that, and now they're telling him, listen, you got to go to this other court, the district court or whatever, which is also not a court. That's what they're doing. They're running around with you.
Right. I've been running around.
They're taking the true process and emulating it, and saying that they are something that they really are not. And neither is the other court that they're telling you to go to.
Okay, well, all right. And nobody's telling me where to go, really. I'm feeling in the dark. And as I read and learn more information, I start following the proper paperwork, following the forms and everything. But at the district court level, even in the declaring common law, I don't, with the paperwork, they will not accept.
Because they don't deal with common law. They're not a court. They're a corporation. And corporations have no parity with the real. We've all have been.
Okay, I was informed in studying for myself. I surmised that federal court issues had to be filed within the district.
You still have to identify whether you're at a federal court. It could be a name only. That's how duped we've been. Yeah, really. And whatever you need to have done, you got to do it. You can't expect them to do it. The analogy that was given. But here's the thing. One of the ways, and you might want to, you explain this, I think, very well, is to identify, for instance, the municipal court, the first one that messed with you, charged you, allegedly did whatever, arrested you, kidnapped you, whatever. If you still find out who they are, you'll find out that they're not even a court. They don't have any judicial authority to do that.
Right.
You would find out that they're either operating as a corporation, which they don't hide, or a charter that got incorporated later, and that they have no delegation of authority to adjudicate on the natural people. But,
I understand that now. But at that time, I was in the dark.
Exactly.
I had a
So you should wrap all your stuff up, that you have all your exhibits, all the facts, everything, and don't expect that clerk to move it forward because she's not, like you said, she's not doing it because she's not going to, and now you know why. And you should be the one who takes that, the suit. All that paperwork you have of proof, you got all this great proof because you said yourself that they had charged you with something that you really didn't even do. So, and you got substantiated evidence regarding that they're not even going to want to hear or listen to. That's why they're not moving your stuff forward. That's another reason why. So you should wrap all that up, put the exhibits into with the explanation, cause of your actions for this, and you need to sue them with that paperwork.
Where do I do that? District court, the Supreme Court, none of them are really court. So where do you sue them at?
You have to find a true federal court.
Well, I have it together, the paperwork and the justice. However, I'm probably getting ready to do some more chasing a rabbit or something because I was heading for the district court in South Carolina. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm still dealing with South Carolina. When does it leave South Carolina? Because if it's here in South Carolina, they're going to, like you say, they're going to suffer for themselves. They're going to protect one another. That's clear to see what has been happening. File an awful lot of legal paperwork with different courts and those different places that I assume to be courts. That's it.
Oh, I can hardly hear what you're saying.
What I'm saying, the question I'm asking is, I guess, how do I find a real federal court? Where is it?
What you're going to have to research that. You're going to have to do some research of the whatever's in your area.
And it's telltale signs to yeah, go ahead. You can.
Yeah, you're going to have to research the courts that are in your area because just because they have court in their title, it could just be called a court building, but it's not a real court. So you're going to have to research that. And you have a lot that you're going to have to research, and you have to recognize that a violation of the people has no statute of limitations. So, you know, you're going to have to take your time and do your studies because you can't, you know, do something and then call someone to get the next step. This is what they said, what should I say? This is what I did, what should I do next? You can't do that. That's not going to work.
Well,
so you need to know exactly what you're doing. And for that, you're going to have to study. Because it doesn't sound like you have enough information right now to move forward on your own.
I consider myself researching and studying because I have to do it on my own because you cannot believe anything they tell you. I have lots of friends that are attorneys, and I don't know if they just don't know themselves.
No, they can't. No, that's what I'm saying. You have to know because you're the only one that's going to be able to speak.
And what I'm saying
and
is
nobody's going to be able to address your issue because no one but you have gone through what it is you have experienced.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is I've studied all I know how to study. I don't have a syllabus. Keep it moved into the best of my ability. And I'm finding myself going around in circles when it comes to trying to correct my situation myself. The attorneys ran out at the appellate court level. From there on,
well, let me tell you, an attorney is just an employee of the municipal corporation, so
I do understand.
You're still at the same place.
And
talking to the same.
I'm not talking to the attorney. I mean, I talk to a lot of them because I know a lot of them. You know, and they're looking at me and smiling, but I don't talk to them about what I'm doing in my study because I've come to the conclusion that they themselves not really aware of what's going on. They're just making a list. So, I mean, that's just the way it appears to me. They can't be for real and honestly know what's going on. I'm dealing with a situation with attorneys that I had paid to represent me, and their business is barred. And I'm being informed that
first of all, you're right. They don't know your situation because they work for a corporation, and that's all they know is the policies and procedures of the corporation. So,
okay.
Their job is to make sure that the corporation is as profitable as it can be. That's their job. Their job, regardless of whether you hire them or not, their job is to make sure that the corporation is as profitable as it. You have an attorney who is a friend or even a family member. They're not going to be able to help you because they went to school to learn how to deal with policies and procedures of a corporation, not the supreme law of the land. If they knew how to deal with the supreme law of the land, they wouldn't be attorneys. So we got just a couple minutes left to the broadcast. It's 12:22, and I think we got maybe one more caller, and then it's going to go down.
Can I just say one last thing to him and look this up? When you look up improper person, that means you're presenting yourself, not an attorney. In the definition, it says pleas to a court must be made in proper person or in propria persona, because if they are made by an attorney, it gives leave to the court, which means it gives jurisdiction. So that wraps that up right there. So when you take into consideration that you're not even dealing with a court, you're dealing with a corporation's venue, and then if you go and hire an attorney who works for the corporations, really, they're not going to do anything but put you in a position, the same position of the corporation, which means to the benefit of them. And also an attorney's first obligation is not to the quote-unquote client, but to that particular court or venue or meeting room. And so the moment you hire the attorney, you become a ward of the court because he wants you there. So look at the attorney as like a bounty hunter with a suit and tie on that takes you and drops you in the jurisdiction of a fiction of a corporation. So you're going to have to, like we said, do it yourself. So I just wanted to add that, and we can move on. I think give thought to that. Peace and love.
Wow.
Peace and love.
All right, peace and love. All right, we have Islam caller 214-565. We got about 2-3 minutes left to the broadcast.
Islam, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Islam, this is Brother Abdul Malik Shakur Bey. I'm calling from Northwest of Mexico, the Texas Republic Territory. I'd like to give a shout out to Anna Edel, Uraz Marabe, the Mizram, the Cujo L. Once again, y'all having another very conscious and uplifting program. When I'm listening to the last Moor speaking, and the first thing comes to my mind, what our illustrious prophet stated, study, study, study. And when you have studied well and would ask me what to study next, I will reply, study yourself. And it's another statement. In order to change the people, you must change their literature. And even if you haven't, the literature changed, if you haven't done the first one by studying, you still will be putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. You have to study. You just cannot go out just because you don't listen to someone, as I heard earlier stated, on the YouTube or hearing someone speak or pick up a book, although it's right, but right does not give you equilibrium to go out and try to do what one has been studying for years and master. Dedicated Moorish Americans will graduate or ascend in knowledge by degree. That's mentally, spiritually, and socially, advancing with consciousness. The minds of seekers will change with level of knowledge, and thus Moors will be guided toward even more advanced, beneficial, and diligent studies as instructed by our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. We must apply ourselves to studying. Just like before, I went to court with my written affidavit, and in front of, I call them turnovers, a corporate representative, so-called liar. The judge told him, looked at my paperwork and looked at his, told him in his face, you need to go study. That's why I know it was correct what our prophet stated. Study, study, study. Why? To show yourself approved. They're going to test you. And if you're not competent enough, you might get put, as y'all was stating, what floor on fire? I remember the time I used to eat bacon. I used to like it burnt. I don't want it no more. And I sure don't want to get burnt. My closing, choose ye, you more this day whom you are going to follow. Go back to the ways of your foremothers and forefathers, your ancestors. Or you can follow the Caucasians, which were created by our ancestors, the Moors. And most of all, study and follow our prophet, who was divinely prepared by Allah to raise